I watch over a hidden biohazard lab in Alaska. There are strange rules to follow. They told me the cold would be the worst part. Not the miles of icy wilderness, not the deafening silence, not even the constant night. But they never mentioned the screams under the floor. They never told me what happens if you break the rules. And now, I think I've already broken one. I arrived at the facility under a pale gray sky that felt more like a lid clamped over the world than the atmosphere. The small plane that dropped me off didn't even shut off its engines. The pilot, an older man with a stiff jaw and dead eyes, barely glanced at me as I stepped off. He muttered something about good luck before lifting back into the frozen clouds, leaving me alone on a white runway flanked by sharp mountain ridges and nothing else. I pulled my parka tight and stared at the single metal door ahead of me, embedded into a concrete hill that jutted out like a bunker swallowed by the permafrost. There were no windows, no signs, just a red keypad and a surveillance camera, both blinking like a heartbeat. I punched in the code they gave me in anchorage. The door hissed, groaned, and then opened inward with a gust of recycled air that smelled faintly of antiseptic and iron. The man who greeted me inside was named Clarkson. Tall, skeletal, skin pulled too tightly over his face. He didn't smile, didn't shake my hand, just nodded once and turned on his heel. "Follow closely," he said. "No wandering. That's rule 1. I didn't ask about the rest of the rules yet. There was something in his voice that told me he'd explain on his own terms, and that it'd be better if I listened. We walked down a series of metal corridors that curved and twisted like intestines. Fluorescent lights buzzed above us, but some flickered just long enough to leave me disoriented. It felt more like a submarine than a laboratory, claustrophobic, clinical, and wrong. "This lab isn't on any map," Clarkson finally said as we descended a narrow staircase. "Built in the 70s during the Cold War, meant to study weaponized viruses. Then it was mothballed, forgotten." I nodded slowly, trying to absorb the cold weight of his words. "So why reopen it now?" Clarkson didn't stop walking, because something down here started growing again. The security office, my new home, was a windowless cube packed with monitors, switches, and a cot shoved against the far wall. Clarkson handed me a laminated sheet of rules, 10 in total, typed, bolded, no explanations. The rules. Rule number 1, never wander from your assigned zone. Rule number 2, keep doors locked at all times. Rule number 3, do not engage with lab personnel you don't recognize. Rule number 4, do not open the containment doors. Rule number 5, if you hear tapping from the air vents, notify command immediately. Rule number 6, between 2:13 and 2:17 a.m., do not look at monitor 6. Rule number 7, no one is allowed in corridor E, especially not after midnight. Rule number 8, if you hear your name being whispered, ignore it. Rule number 9, the freezer room is always to remain locked, no exceptions. Rule number 10, trust no one who knocks 3 times. These aren't a joke, Clarkson said, his voice flat. You break one, and it could kill all of us. Or worse. I wanted to laugh, or at least scoff, but something in his hollow eyes told me he wasn't exaggerating. And deep down, I felt a shift, like ice cracking beneath my boots. Something primal told me, this place doesn't want you here. The first night passed slowly. I sat in the chair, wrapped in 3 layers, sipping reheated coffee and staring at a wall of monitors. Most just showed empty hallways. One showed the sealed containment wing. Another showed the main elevator. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. Until 2:14 a.m. I nearly nodded off when a sharp, high-pitched beep stabbed the silence. Monitor 6 flickered to life, static twisting the screen into a distorted mess. My eyes drifted toward it by instinct, and then I remembered Rule 6. I snapped my gaze away, heart pounding. The static grew louder, not just visual interference, but noise, like 100 insects crawling across a microphone. And then a voice. It said my name. Soft, wet, gurgled. Ben. I shut my eyes and counted 10. By the time I opened them again, the screen had gone black. Morning didn't bring relief, just dim artificial lighting and another meal that tasted like plastic and salt. I tried asking Clarkson about the incident, but he brushed me off. Don't engage with it, he said. That was the only answer he ever gave me. On the third night, something worse happened. I was doing a patrol check near the secondary refrigeration unit, Corridor D, when I heard a metallic thud echo from down the hallway. Then another. 3 total. My blood ran cold. Rule 10. Trust no one who knocks 3 times. I froze. My flashlight flickered, dimmed, then returned. The corridor stretched into darkness, the red emergency lights barely illuminating the far door. Thud, 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 then silence. I stepped back slowly, trying not to breathe too loudly. Then I saw something on the floor, a line of frost, creeping from under the door like veins of silver. I retreated to the office. Later that night, I played back the camera feed. There was nothing on it. No knocks, no frost, not even me. It was like that part of the hallway didn't exist at all. Clarkson finally began talking to me on the 4th day. It wasn't conversation, more like confession. This lab was supposed to die, he murmured. They buried it beneath 6 stories of ice and forgot it. But some things, they don't stay buried. I asked him what exactly was down here. He didn't answer, but he did pull up a security feed from Containment Unit 3. Why saw made my stomach twist. A figure stood in the center of the sealed room, not moving, thin, stretched, limbs too long, skin gray like melted wax. No eyes. It turned its head toward the camera, toward me. Then it smiled. That night, I heard scratching from inside the ventilation shaft above the cot. It went on for 20 minutes. Then I heard my own voice whispering from inside it. Ben, come see. By the end of the first week, I understood the truth. This wasn't a lab. It was a tomb, and someone, or something, was trying to get out. It's strange how quickly fear becomes routine. I'd been at the facility for 9 days now, and I was already used to the buzz of broken lights, the hum of distant machinery, and the smell, like old bleach and something decaying beneath the vents. But no matter how much I adjusted to the noise, the silence between sounds was worse. It was never just quiet here. It was listening. I try not to think about the figure in Containment Unit 3, or the whispers, or the knocks. Instead, I focused on the rules. I read them every morning like a prayer. I didn't even know who I was praying to, certainly not Clarkson. He'd become more distant since our last conversation, like something had drained the warmth from him entirely. His eyes looked sunken. He'd stopped shaving, and sometimes when I passed him in the halls, he didn't seem to recognize me at all. On the 10th night, I broke Rule 7, not on purpose. I was finishing my patrol at 2:30 a.m. The corridors dim and empty as always when I noticed one of the cameras had gone out. Monitor 8, Corridor E. I hesitated. The rule was clear. No one is allowed in corridor, especially not after midnight. But something itched at the back of my brain. What if Clarkson had gone down there and needed help? What if something had breached containment again? I grabbed the flashlight and my keycard. The metal felt colder than usual. Corridor E was behind a rusted security door at the end of the facility's southern wing. I'd passed it during my initial orientation, but the red light above the handle had always warned. Access denied. That night, it blinked green. Inside, the air felt denser, wetter, like I'd stepped into the lungs of something sleeping. The lights overhead flickered sporadically, casting the hallway in pulses of shadow. On each side were sealed doors labeled in code. Rooms I didn't recognize. Rooms I didn't want to. I moved slowly, flashlight held tight in one hand, heart hammering so loud I was sure it would echo off the walls. Halfway down, I saw something that made me stop. A smear of red, dark and crusted, on the floor. It led into one of the side rooms. The door was slightly ajar. No label. The smell hit me before I stepped inside. Copper and rot. My eyes watered. Then I saw what was left of the person. Or rather, what had once been a person. Bones had been snapped like twigs and rearranged. Skin peeled back almost surgically, but there was no blood, just dried lines and splatters, as if the body had been emptied and then posed. The worst part, there were 3 perfect knocks gouged into the metal wall next to the corpse. I stumbled back into the corridor, nearly slipping on the frost lining the floor. My breath came out in sharp gasps, and I turned to run, but that's when I heard it, dragging. Something wet, something wrong. It came from the far end of corridor, from the darkness. I saw movement, something tall and thin shifting just out of the light's reach. I didn't wait. I ran. I tore through the hall, slammed the security door shut behind me, and scrambled back to the office. My fingers shook as I checked the monitors, rewound the footage. Nothing. Not even me. Corridor E, according to the feed, hadn't been accessed in over a month. The next morning, Clarkson didn't show up for his routine check-in. I waited an hour. 2. Then I went to his quarters. The door was wide open. The room looked untouched, but wrong. His cot was made, his gear neatly packed. Too neatly. On the desk sat his access badge and a folded note. The note read, "It calls when you break the order. It sees through the walls. I heard it in the vent last night. I'm sorry. Don't follow me." That was it. No goodbye. No name signed at the bottom. Just a line of frost creeping along the windowsill. I tried to contact HQ that night using the encrypted radio line. Static. No response. Then a voice buzzed in, a woman, distant and panicked. She didn't say where she was, but her words sent chills through me. "It's not a virus." That's the lie. That's always been the lie. Then silence. The transmission ended in a shriek that didn't sound human. I unplugged the radio and sat in the dark for hours, too afraid to move. That's when I saw it. A shape on monitor 3. At first, I thought it was distortion, but it moved. A tall, gaunt figure gliding down the hallway outside the freezer room. Its joints were wrong, bending backward, twitching in sudden jerks. It stopped and turned to face the camera. No eyes, just skin stretched too tight and a wide slit of mouth grinning. Then it raised one hand and knocked on the wall once, twice, 3 times. I locked every door, checked every vent, sat with my back to the wall, clutching the emergency flare gun they gave me on arrival. Not much use against whatever that was, but I needed something, anything. At 3:17 a.m., the air went cold again. Not just cold, freezing. I could see my breath, even inside the insulated room. Ice climbed the walls. My fingers went numb. Then I heard it whispering again. "Ben, open the freezer." Rule 9. The freezer room is always to remain locked. No exceptions. I'd never even been near it. But the voice came from inside my head, or from the vents, or from somewhere else. And it repeated the demand. "Ben, open it. It's waiting for you." I stuffed earbuds in and blasted static. It didn't help. I could still hear it beneath the noise. I curled up on the cot, flare gun clutched in both hands, eyes fixed on the door. The whispering didn't stop until dawn. That morning, someone knocked on the office door. 3 times. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knock came again, this time followed by a voice. "Clarkson's gone. Open up." I recognized the voice, or at least it sounded like one of the technicians I'd met during orientation, Dr. Kravitz. But I also remembered Rule 10. Trust no one who knocks 3 times. I stayed silent. Then the voice changed, shifted. Then it was my mother's voice now. Soft, familiar. But she's been dead for 5 years. That was when I knew this place doesn't contain a virus. It doesn't contain anything. It feeds something. Something old. Something wrong. And the rules? They're not guidelines. They're bindings. Each one we break, a thread loosens. Each knock, each whisper, each glance into the wrong monitor, it unravels something buried in this ice, something that was never meant to be found. I haven't slept in 3 days. The vents hiss all night. The cameras flicker and twist with images that can't be real. And somewhere, just out of reach, something waits. I don't know how much longer I can last without breaking another rule. But I know one thing. Clarkson didn't leave. He was taken, and now it's coming for me. I haven't left the office in 2 days. The hallways outside groan like something enormous is dragging itself through the ventilation system. The lights flicker in patterns now, almost rhythmic, like breathing. The whispers have become constant, always just beyond comprehension, like a foreign language I'm starting to recognize without understanding. And sometimes, it's not whispers, it screams. I've been surviving on vending machine snacks and bottled water. I stopped trusting the tap after I found thick, black strands coiled in the drain. Like hair, only too long, too alive. This place doesn't want me dead. It wants me to see something, to understand. I woke last night to the monitors blaring red. Breach in Containment Unit 1. My heart stopped. Unit 1 houses the original sample. That's what Clarkson called it in the orientation, with a look in his eyes like he wanted to say more, but couldn't. I grabbed my flare gun and the emergency tablet, which was now glitching so badly it looked like it had frost inside the screen. Despite my better judgment and every screaming instinct, I stepped into the hallway. This time, the facility felt different. The walls sweated cold. The overhead speakers hissed static, broken up by something that almost sounded like breathing. And then, a song, a lullaby, soft, warped, playing from the old intercom system as I walked. Sleep, little creature, don't open your eyes. The corridor to Containment Unit 1 was sealed behind 2 airlocks. When I got there, the first was wide open. The second was torn, not opened, torn, steel twisted like paper. Frost bloomed out in vines across the floor, and something dark pulsed in the center of the hallway, like blood, only thicker. Inside the unit, the lights were blown out, but my flashlight caught something on the far wall, a message smeared in what looked like ink or oil or something worse. You are not the first. I backed out slowly. Then I saw it. The figure was crouched in the hallway, right outside the door I just exited. I hadn't heard it, hadn't felt it. It was just there, tall, thin, head cocked like a bird studying prey. Its skin looked like wax stretched too far, limbs impossibly long, spine bending in segments like a centipede. And in the flicker of my light, I saw something stitched into its chest, a name tag. Clarkson. He looked at me with no eyes, just empty sockets, and a grin that split too far, showing rows of teeth that didn't look human anymore. He raised one hand and knocked on the wall. Once, twice, 3 times. I ran, not to the office, not to safety. I ran to the freezer room. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it was a dead end, and whatever that thing was wouldn't follow. Or maybe, deep down, I already knew this was where it all led. The heavy door was sealed, frost coating the keypad like snow. My badge shook in my hand. Rule 9 had been clear. The freezer room is always to remain locked. But what if that's what it wanted? What if keeping it locked was just giving him more time? I scanned the badge. Click. The door groaned open. The cold hit me like a fist. Inside, it wasn't just a freezer. It was a massive chamber lined with pods. Cryogenic units. Maybe some are still humming. Others have been smashed open from the inside. In the center of the room was a pit. A circular metal hatch that looked ancient. Older than the facility itself. I don't know how I knew that, but I did. The metal was scorched and carved with symbols I didn't recognize, but my brain recoiled from them instinctively. And chained to the walls around the pit were mirrors. Not monitors, not sensors. Mirrors, all facing inward, all angled to reflect the hatch. Something about that was very wrong. Then I heard the voice again. This time, it wasn't whispering. It spoke clearly, calmly, like a doctor's voice. Male, smooth, warm. You've seen it now. That means it sees you too. I turned, and there was no one. The voice echoed from every direction. The rules don't protect you anymore. They only delay it. The mirrors were our first defense, until we realized they also feed it. You know why they built this lab out here, don't you? I couldn't respond. To bury it. But you can't bury a god. Not in ice. Suddenly, all the lights in the chamber went out. Total darkness swallowed me. Then one by one, the mirrors cracked. A soft plink, then another. Dozens. And behind each, I saw movement. Like reflections with no source. I turned to flee, but the hatch began to glow. Not brightly, just a faint pulse. Red and slow, like a heartbeat. And from inside the pit, something began to rise. A hand, long pale, with fingers that ended in wet, curling tendrils. It gripped the edge of the hatch like it remembered the world and wanted back in. I ran. I don't remember how I got out of the freezer. I just remember slamming the door behind me and hearing the sound of knocking again from the other side. Not 3 knocks this time. 4. Back in the office, the monitors are useless now. They show only static or symbols or my own reflection smiling when I'm not. The rules don't mean anything anymore. They're just rituals, habits. And now I understand. The facility was never meant to study anything. It was built to contain a doorway. One that's opening. Clarkson didn't go mad. He didn't get infected. He looked too long. And now, so have I. Last night, someone left a new note on the office floor. I didn't hear anyone come in. No handwriting. Just printed, like it came from an old typewriter. It reads, "You're almost out of time. The 5th knock will open the door. The 5th knock is you." I haven't heard it yet, but I will, because something is calling me back to the freezer. Something below. And I think, I'm starting to want to go. I've stopped sleeping. Every time I close my eyes, I see the freezer door. And behind it, I hear knocking. For knocks. Never 5. Not yet. The whispers in the hallway have stopped. That should feel like relief, but silence in this place is worse. It's like the building is holding its breath. Waiting. I no longer check the rules. They've become meaningless. The world behind those pages was an illusion. Control dressed up as procedure. This place was never under control. Not once. Last night, I found another message. Not a note this time. Carved into the drywall beside the vending machine in the break room was something sharp. "Your memories are wrong." I laughed. I don't know why. It just came out of me. Because deep down, I knew it was true. Things have started slipping. There are gaps where there shouldn't be. I looked at my old security photo, pinned beside the door, and I swear it's changing. The man in the picture doesn't look quite like me anymore. His face is thinner, the eyes too wide, too alert. It's watching me now from inside the glass. I opened the employee database out of desperation, tried to find a trace of Clarkson, of Ramirez, of anyone who used to work here. Every file has been scrubbed, except one, a record labeled Subject 0. I shouldn't have clicked it. Inside was a video. Grainy. Surveillance footage. The date read June 3rd, 1981, 43 years ago. The camera looked down into what I now know is the freezer room. But it wasn't frozen then. No frost. No emergency lighting. Just steel and cables and scientists in hazmat suits. They were lowering something into the hatch. A person. Or at least it used to be. The body twitched as they strapped it down. Veins blackened. Skin pale, like wax in the sun. One scientist whispered, "It's still aware." Another said, "It's adapting, becoming what it was before the veil." They sealed the hatch. As the lid closed, the body opened its eyes directly at the camera. I swear to God, it looked at me. I paused the tape, rewound, froze the frame. There's no mistaking it now. That body, it's me. I vomited in the sink. I don't remember doing that. I just remember staring at the cracked mirror, trying to convince myself I was real, that this version of me isn't a shadow of something else. But the cracks in the mirror started shifting, not breaking, moving, forming letters. A message. You're the breach. You've always been. At some point, I lost time again. When I came to, I was already in the hallway, standing outside the freezer door, my hand on the keypad. No idea how long I'd been there. And then it happened. Knock, 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 knock. The fifth knock. But it didn't come from behind the door. It came from inside my chest, like a second heartbeat waking up. The door hissed open on its own. This time, the cold didn't bother me. I walked inside. The mirrors were all shattered now. Black ooze leaked from the cracks, rising like smoke but moving against gravity. The hatch was glowing again, and on the floor around it, drawn in a circle, were names. Dozens. Hundreds. Clarkson. Ramirez. Wong. Mathis. Dr. Vell. B. Auerbach. Names I recognized from paperwork I thought I imagined, all scratched into the ice. And in the center of them all, Ben Holloway. My name. The hatch began to open, but there was no alarm this time. No lockdown. No klaxons. Just a long, slow exhale of warm breath from below. I stepped toward the edge, and I saw something impossible. Myself, tied to a table, eyes open, crying, mouth sewn shut, surrounded by mirrors. Dozens of them, each one reflecting a different version of me. Some were dressed as scientists, others in military gear, one in a bloodstained suit, all whispering in unison, "Wake up." The one on the table met my gaze, and he was the one who screamed. Suddenly, I was pulled backward. Hands, real hands, grabbed my shoulders, yanked me out of the freezer, and slammed the door shut behind us. I turned. It was Ramirez, or something wearing her face. Her eyes were filled with black veins. Her skin flaked like ash, but she was still her, enough to speak. "You're not ready. It's not your turn yet." She shoved a syringe into my neck before I could speak. I woke up in the office. Door locked. Flare gun beside me. No sign of Ramirez. No memory of how much time passed. Only a single sticky note on the console. "You have to remember who you were to become what you are." The hallway cameras are all down again, except one, the one inside the freezer. And on it, I see the hatch, now wide open. The chamber is empty. Whatever was beneath, it's out. I've begun seeing things in the vents. Not eyes, not limbs. Reflections, not mine. I think I understand the rules now. They were never for my safety. They were instructions for the entity. Laws of limitation. But it's learning, changing. And soon, it won't need rules at all. Only hosts. The rules are no longer updating. I checked the console one last time. There's a final rule added that wasn't there before. One that's glowing red and blinking. Rule 15. Do not follow yourself into the hatch. Underneath it, a message blinks. Initiation complete. Now I see the truth. I was never the guard. I was the containment, a memory given flesh, a version built from echoes. And now that I've remembered too much, the entity is free. If you're hearing this, I need you to know something. I'm not sure I was ever human. The rules were never meant to protect me. They were meant to protect you. And now the rules are breaking. Because I remembered. And once you remember who you were, there's no going back. The power died 6 hours ago. Everything's dark now, except the emergency lights pulsing like a dying heartbeat. No heat, no comms. The outer locks failed. There's nothing keeping the cold, or whatever escaped, inside anymore. But I'm still here. I didn't run, because where would I go? I've seen what's beyond the perimeter cameras. I've watched the snow twist into shapes that shouldn't walk upright. I've seen lights blinking in the tree that aren't from drones or stars. Something ancient is watching and waiting. The facility is crumbling. Frost is spreading like veins across the walls, but it's not from the temperature. It's alive, reacting to me, like I'm no longer separate from this place. Like we were always one. I walk past the console. It flickers, then dies completely. The words from Rule 15 echo in my head. Do not follow yourself into the hatch. But I did, and now I understand. There was no entity. It was me, all along. I was created here, not born, not hired, not transferred from another department. Created, a synthetic identity, a patchwork of memory, personality, and flesh, stitched together to form a containment vessel. I wasn't guarding the hatch. I was the hatch, the door between the known and the forgotten. And now that door is open. The thing beneath the hatch was never a creature. It was a consciousness, the remnants of something old, dug up from the permafrost, fragmented through failed experiments, passed between cloned bodies like a virus of thought. They couldn't kill it, so they tried to forget it, buried it in layers of protocol, rules, identities, resets. And me? I was the final protocol, the last firewall. I was never supposed to wake up, but the others, they try to warn me. Clarkson, Ramirez. Not guards, not co-workers. They were earlier iterations, failed shells of the same experiment. I saw their names carved into the ice because they were part of the cycle. Their consciousnesses fractured when they remembered too much. I'm just the next version in line. The freezer room is gone now. Where it once stood is a hole, a black well of moving reflections. I approach it, flare gun trembling in my grip. But it's not the fall I fear. It's the recognition, the knowing. And as I stare down into it, the reflections coalesce. Hundreds of me, all watching. Some weeping, others smiling, and one, down at the very bottom, whispering, "You made it." I fire the flare. It arcs through the dark, illuminating what lies beneath. Not a chamber, not machinery, but a mirror, endless and vast. And as the flare hits it, the surface shatters. Not with sound, with screams. My screams. Suddenly the bass shifts. Not like an earthquake, more like a breathing. The walls pulse outward. Ice sloughs from the ceilings. Lights flicker with rapid strobe, faster and faster until they all go out. And in the darkness, I see it. Me, the original, or maybe the final version. I can't tell anymore. He stands across the void, not bound, not broken, just awake. His eyes glow with memories I've never lived, but somehow recognize. He speaks in a voice that's not sound, but remembrance. You were never supposed to forget, but we had to make you, again and again, to keep it inside. I asked him what it is. He smiles and says, the first thought, the one before language, before time. We called it the origin, and now it's free. The mirror beneath me breaks completely, and suddenly I'm falling, but not through space, through memory, through every identity they programmed into me. Every job, every rule, every false shift, fake report, synthetic trauma, all collapsing until I land in the one moment they couldn't erase. The truth. I'm standing in a circular room made of obsidian and bone. At its center is a slab, and on it lies the original vessel. The first. Not me, but the prototype. Its body broken beyond repair, but its brain still pulsing, still thinking. I hear a voice behind me. Dr. Vell. She's older now. Or maybe this memory is newer. Time has no meaning here. We harvested too much, she says. We reached into something older than the mind, something buried beneath thought, and now it's leaking. I asked why they made me. She looks sad. We needed someone who could hold the scream. And now, the scream is mine. Back in the lab, my body convulses. The flare gun is gone. My eyes are bleeding black, veins pulsing under the skin. I look into the nearest camera, and I see not myself, but all of them. All the versions, all the iterations. And I finally remember their names. All of them. Because I was all of them. Outside, the snow has stopped falling. The sky is cracked with green fire. Aurora bleeding from the heavens like torn fabric. Something is climbing up from the well. Something that wears my face. But not human. Not even pretending anymore. It stares at me, then opens its mouth and speaks in the voice of the first rule I ever read. Welcome to your shift. There's no ending here. No twist that brings comfort. Only this. The rules were not meant to keep the thing inside the hatch. They were meant to keep the world from realizing what lies beneath the surface of memory. What we once were. What we will be again. And now I remember. The end.